Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel, Brandy Janae's Book Show. Today I'm going to be doing my worst books read in 2018. And before I get into it, I will say that all of these aren't necessarily the worst books I read. Some of them are just disappointing reads. I'm just going to get into it. Try not to talk too much, just in case you guys really don't want to hear about all that. Anyway, the first one I have is A Quart of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas. If you have been in a hole somewhere and you didn't know, this series, it was initially supposed to be a trilogy, and it was announced, I believe, in 2017 that there were going to be 3 more books added onto the series. This was supposed to be a bridge book in between that series, or that part of the series, and the next part of the series. However, all of this was pretty much just these characters shopping for Christmas and celebrating Christmas. And there's a little bit of insight on some other things. A lot of it is supposed to be focusing on how these characters are handling and how they're dealing with the after effects of going to war and A Court of Wings and Ruin. But it seems just like this novella is mainly focused on winter solstice and them shopping for each other. My favorite part of this entire novella was actually the free sneak peek we got of the next book, which isn't like officially a part of the novella, which is sad. So this little section here is like there's literally a page that says sneak peek into the next book in the series. So that was my favorite part of this entire little novella, and that wasn't even officially a part of the novella. This wasn't the worst thing ever. I gave it 3 stars, but it wasn't my favorite thing, especially with the way it was marketed and the price that I paid for it. You know, it's just, I felt like it wasn't as good as it could have been. And even if it was just like an ebook novella that was sold closer to Christmas time, because this was released in May, I believe. So it's just like everything about this was just all off. I feel like it might have been rushed because maybe the publisher thought that they needed to put something out because Kingdom of Ash wasn't set to come out until October, and because the A Court of Thorns and Roses series had wrapped up the previous year, there was nothing from this author. But I feel like she had a lot going on in her personal life where it would have been okay just to not have anything until Kingdom of Ash, because I feel like this was unnecessary. The next book that I have to talk about is The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. This is another one that was more so disappointment as compared to being a terrible book. However, I felt like this one, I disliked it more than I disliked A Court of Thorns and Roses or A Court of Frost and Starlight. So this book takes place in a small town in Oregon, I believe, 2 centuries ago in the current time of this. These 3 sisters were accused of witchcraft and they were drowned in this lake along the town. For a span of time every summer, these witches come back. They inhabit the body of young teenage girls and they go about a killing spree pretty much every year. And we're following this main character, 17-year-old, I believe her name is Penny. I just briefly looked back at this, and she encounters this new guy who comes into town. His name is Bo, and he has his secret agenda. He's saying that he just so happened to be left there, or that was the last stop on the bus, and she's just like, you know, I don't believe that, but she's trying to keep him safe. And we're following the event of the story unfolding and what's actually going on in this town. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I think that this just wasn't the story for me. I felt like the way that things were handled weren't necessarily done the best, and also there was a lot of hype surrounding this book, which is part of the reason why I picked it up. And this is one of those books where I was just like, I don't understand it, don't understand the hype. I don't know why so many people love this, because it just wasn't great. It wasn't a book that I hated, but it wasn't like, you know, good. The next book, which is another disappointing, I didn't like it, but it wasn't the worst of the books that I've read, was The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. This is a little bit over 350 pages, and I just felt like there was way too much going on in this book. I felt like it would have been best if some things had been separated, and I felt like the worlds could have connected, but maybe it would have been better going into the story if there was a little background knowledge about the world and everything else that came with this world. And I just, maybe it's just me and like the what I like. I don't know. It was just something about it. You know, every book isn't for everyone, and I just felt like this was not for me. The next couple books that I have, I'm just going to briefly talk about these because I don't have physical copies of these. The first one of those is Twisted Fate by Jesse Elliott. This is when I was starting to get into fae, and I was just like, that sounds like something I might be interested in. It was like a new adult urban fantasy with fae type of story. This main character, don't remember her name, don't remember how old she is, I just know she was in college. She ends up getting entangled with the fae because she's mistaken for someone else, because she is mistaken and they reveal more than they're supposed to, or that person who mistakes her for someone else reveals more than they're supposed to. See, this is how you know it's a problem, because I can't even remember the story. I think the main fae guy was trying to erase her memory, but it didn't work. So it was like she either had to like keep working with him and like not reveal anything, or she had the option to die. Like she was like, he's like, you can either spy for me or something like that and try to get the person who I was really looking for, or you can die. So obviously she doesn't want to die, so she agrees to work with this fae. He was like head of, I think it was like dark fae and light fae in the story, and he was the head of the dark fae. And this one was set up where it's like the light fae or the fae who were up and about during the day. Dark fae were the ones who obviously were out at night, and this was like the agreement that they had from who knows how long ago. And this was, I think, the first book in a series. I'm not sure if it was supposed to be a duology or if it was like an actual series, but I only read this first one. I think overall the concept of the story was really good. However, it was not executed well at all. I felt like it was really rushed. There was not enough character development. I felt like it was just a lot of jumping into different situations, and it just wasn't well done, and I hated that. Like, I hated feeling like that, and I hated giving it a bad review. The next one that I have is You Will Be Mine by Natasha Preston. This was a mystery thriller, I believe. Might just be a thriller. I don't know really what the difference is, but this one follows another character who was in college. However, this one is a contemporary. This one was following this main character, or I don't even know if it was just like one character, but we were in the mindset of one of the characters, and it was her and her group of friends, and this was taking place around Valentine's Day, and they were getting ready to go out one day, and one of the guys who lived in this house with all of them received this note. It was like a really creepy cutout, like serial killer style, where they cut up magazine posts of different letters and stuff and sent it to this guy. And it was really creepy message, but he decides to disregard it. They go out, he doesn't come home, and then they find out pretty quickly that he has been killed, and his body was like dumped on campus where the main girl that we're following, where she can find it. So we're going through the story different periods at a time, and different people start getting killed off, and pretty much trying to find out who's doing this, why they're doing it. This book was so, like, I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars, but I think my rating should probably be like 1.5, maybe even a 1, because this story was just handled so poorly. Now, I felt like it might be different because I'm pretty sure that the author as well as the story takes place in the UK, so I'm not sure how they run their police system. However, in the US, there is a lot more that goes into it. Even if I don't know the full depth of how crimes are handled, a lot of these things, just from watching TV shows where they're looking for serial killers and stuff like that, the way they did this is not how it's done. After the first 2 people were killed and they were snatched after going out, the cops suggested, you know, go about your normal lives, and, you know, you go out, we'll all be there, nobody's gonna know, or nobody's gonna get you, because we'll be there. And like, they suggested that these college kids go out, even though every time somebody goes out after they get this note, somebody gets snatched and they end up dead. They suggest they go out, and I think that time, like, whoever it is, the guy comes up to our main female character, find out like it's all about her or something like that. So they go up to her. The cops don't know anything about it, and I don't remember if somebody ends up dead after that or not, but this happens while the cops are on watch after they told them to be there. It was just like a lot of little things like that were happening. Like, one person said that it had to be this guy, because the main female character dumped him and he was really unhappy with it. He was like so upset that he quit school. I was just like, I could not believe anybody would quit school. Like, I get possibly hanging out with different people, not being around them people that you were around before because you're really upset and you don't want to be around this one specific person, but to give up school, like to completely quit because of one person, like, and it wasn't even that she dumped him, she flat out rejected him. She was just like, I'm not ready for a relationship or something, because he was trying to get with her when she was remembering about her parents dying or something like that, and she wasn't into him. Even if it's just, there's a lot of little things, and I was just like, no. I was just not having it. It was just like a bunch of different stupid stuff. But like I was saying, somebody saying that it had to be that guy, and then everyone was like, oh, it has to be him, it has to be him, including the cops. They were just like, it has to be him, you know. And I get following all your leads, but they brought all his parents, like they brought his family in. It was just like, it has to be him. Then, like, hopefully this doesn't spoil you, but if it does, like, mute it for a little bit until I put my hand down. But it turns out that the guy actually, something like, he had ended up getting killed by the person who was killing all these other people too, so he wasn't even the one that did it. Anyway, long story short, I did not like this one. It irked my nerves so much while I was reading it. I'm surprised that I actually finished it, because I really wanted to give up, because I was just like, everyone is being extremely dumb in this one. But yeah, the last book that I don't have a physical copy of is Listen Pitch by Lainey Lynn Bell. This one I read later in the year, so if you've been on my channel for like a couple months now, I read this one in October, so I probably talked about it early November in my October wrap up. This one is an adult contemporary romance, and this was one of those stories where you have to like let go of all realistic beliefs for any type of story. So it started off decent. I appreciated the fact that there was like deaf representation in the story, because I feel like this is the first time I have ever read a story where we have a main character or any supporting characters that are deaf and need hearing aids. So I thought that was really nice. These characters end up meeting because the female lead, she is watching her niece, and it's late at night. She works an overnight job, so on her day off she's watching her niece, and she's sick and she doesn't want her to wake up. Guy next door is having this really loud party, so she goes over to try to tell him to keep it down. So that's how they end up meeting, and then he disappears for like a week. Turns out he's in a hospital. He's been in a really bad accident, and the way it was set up, it was like he was about to die. Knew he couldn't die because I was just like, it's the beginning. It was like the first 15% of the story. I was just like, he can't die, because then what happens to the rest of the story? But it went on for like a good minute where I was just like, okay, he's gonna die. And I'm just gonna let you know, this whole thing is about to be spoilery, so if you don't want to hear anything about this book, I will put like a time up on the screen for when you can skip, so you know when to go on if you don't want to hear anything about this one or don't want to hear spoilers, because I can't talk about this without doing spoilers, and I have already gone into this one in a wrap up before, but I feel like I need to go over it again. Like I was saying, he's in the hospital, like he has had brain trauma, and like it got to the point where the main female character at least, thought he actually died, because there was some glitch with power in his specific room, like only his room, so they thought he was dead. And then something happened and she was like at the hospital, and turns out he wasn't actually dead. So she ends up going to talk to him, and he remembers everything that she was saying to him while he was sleeping. Or while he, not sleeping, but while he was unconscious. So they start talking and blah, 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 blah. Turns out he was in this accident because his uncle, it was like an old family friend. His father was like part of a mafia or something like that, and he left this money to him. But he had like some really strict stipulations in order for him to get this money, or the money went to his sister. And this uncle of his, which like I said is a friend of the family, wanted this money because he needs money for his part that he's trying to play in it. He doesn't want his uncle to get this money, but the only way he can get it at the moment is if he's dead, because like I said, the money would go to the guy's sister, and the sister doesn't want any troubles with him, so she would just give it to him. So turns out, like I was saying, he was in this accident because this guy pretty much put a hit out on him, and he got hit while he was on this motorcycle. So he tells us, like, he ends up convincing this girl that she needs to marry him so he can get this money. And he was like, if you marry me, that's it. We can't get divorced at all. You're with me forever. Mind you, they really don't know each other. They know really nothing about each other besides what she told him while he was unconscious. So for some reason, she agrees to marry him. And I was just like, okay, that's first thing. And then not long after that, she finds out that not only does she need to marry him, but he also needs to have a baby within like 9 months to a year after getting married or something like that. So instead of suggesting that he get her pregnant, he's like, we're gonna go with surrogates. And not only are we going to go with one surrogate, we're going to go with two. Right off the gate, we're jumping in. New marriage that she can't ever break out of because of whatever he has going on in his life. He still hasn't fully explained what's going on. Then he's like, we're going to get two surrogates. They're going to put two babies in each of the surrogates. If all the babies survive, we're going to end up with 4 babies. And then they're also sleeping with each other on top of that. Okay. So moving along. Mind you, I don't think this book was like over 300 pages. We find out that one of the girls loses one of the babies. The other one has, the other one still has the 2 babies. So now they're at 3 babies. And then at some point in there, she also finds out that she's pregnant as well. So we're back up to 4. This book was so ridiculous. So this guy that he calls uncle basically comes around threatening him and his new wife, even though he's like, he'll never hurt any babies and kids. But his second in command doesn't have those problems at all. So they're getting threatened. He's like, we're gonna move these surrogates to a safe house until they give birth, and he's gonna put his new wife somewhere else because she's also pregnant, and he doesn't want anything to happen to her because this guy really wants this money. Turns out the surrogates were in on the whole thing, and one of them like tries to take a pill to get rid of the babies or something like that, so she goes into premature labor. Other one ends up getting hit by a car even though she was in on it, and they think that the guy, the second in command of his uncle on that, had something to do with that, but it was never officially confirmed if he was or not, but pretty sure he was. So after this uncle guy says that he's not gonna hurt any women or children, he, like, after these babies are born, they like transport them to this other location, and then the guy shows up and basically he come with a gun, like he about to shoot these kids, or he shoot the boy baby, because he think it was like a boy and a girl twin from the one that actually had the kids, and the other one that had the other baby, she died in a car accident. So he come and he tried to shoot the baby. Turns out it's like a doll or something like that, and it basically it was a big convoluted mess that made absolutely no sense, and I don't even know why. I think I gave it 2 stars because if nothing else, it was entertaining and I flew right through it. But y'all, I can't even begin to tell you like what. I was just like, I've never read a story that had literally so much put into it for absolutely no reason. And there was, I guess that was a plot, but I was just like, it was supposed to be a romance novel. And like they ended up technically falling in love, but I was just like, but when did you have the time? It's just like, but how did you actually fall in love when it was just, don't even get me started. It wasn't good. Once again, I talked about this before. And it was pretty terrible. So I'm just gonna move on because yeah. Okay, I think I'm getting down to the last few books now. The next one that I have is Between the Blade and the Heart by Amanda Hawking. This one is following this character. Don't remember her name, but she is a Valkyrie. So her job is pretty much to, it says it is her job, her responsibility to slay immortals and return them to the underworld. And we find out that her mother didn't kill somebody she was supposed to kill, and that set off this whole chain of events that led to a bunch of bad things. And she is basically trying to go and fix that, and she has this whole group of people going along with her. I know I kind of just simplified it down a lot. The concept of the story was really good. It was the execution that was done very poorly, and I think so much less of this book because it came through a publisher that has like actual editors. There was so much that was dragged out or felt like it was dragged out, and then even like technical errors, like line by line errors that were in here that should have been caught by an editor. It's like this almost seemed like it should have been self-published, but it wasn't. Like I said, the concept of the story was good. It was just the execution was poor. It seemed like that this author just had a contract that she had to put out so many books. So she had the idea for a story and she kind of did like a couple drafts and then just turned it in, and it was just like, whatever, we're just going to publish it as is. Don't know if that's the case because there seemed to be quite a bit of publicity around this book. I was just disappointed because I just felt like this had so much potential. And yeah, I don't know if I'll ever read the second book because I just, this just did not do it for me. My second to least favorite was Skinwalker by Faith Hunter. This is like the first book in the Jane Yellow Rock series. This was the first book for the Wicked Spirits book club. This one is an urban fantasy series following this character named Jane Yellow Rock. She is Native American, I believe, and it says she's a skinwalker of Cherokee descent. And she ends up going to New Orleans after receiving a call from these vampires. They said they're wanting her to hunt down a powerful rogue vampire who's killing other vampires. This is another one I feel like the general concept of the story was good. Like, I feel like this could have been a solid story. But the way certain things were handled in this book, it just made it drag so much. And it made me just not care for it at all. At some point in her life when she was really young, she took on the form, or she stole this form of this beast. We don't really know what it is, but we know that they're kind of living together. Like, she didn't completely take over this thing, whatever it is, but she can shift into herself. But every now and then this thing is like fighting her from the inside. It's like, no, I need my space to be me. And when it shifts, or whenever it's thinking, it's like this single-minded animalistic thinking way. I don't know if that's making any sense, but it would just be like, cat smells good, eat. And it would just be like that. And whenever it would shift, it would be like pages and pages and pages of that. I don't know, this just, no, not for me. And finally, well, at least I think finally, the book that I thought was the worst that I read this year was Red Riding Hood and the Big Sad Wolf, Volume 1 by Hachujo Arata. I'm not sure if I'm saying the author's name right. This is a manga, if you cannot tell. And this is pretty much, if you can't tell from the title, a take on Little Red Riding Hood. We're still following a little girl who walks around with a Red Riding Hood. However, this little girl is a pyromaniac, and the wolf in the story is, I don't know if they have a specific term for it, but the wolf is like a really like soft character who's always crying over every little thing. And this girl finds the wolf, and she pretty much like takes ownership of the wolf, and she's always bullying him and stuff like that. And we come across these other different animal characters and stuff like that, but honestly this story had absolutely no plot to it at all. It was like a bunch of little shorts. Only thing I really liked about it was the art style. The art was cute, but when I read manga, I'm wanting a story, and just no. That's all I have for you guys today. Let me know what was some of your worst books that you read in 2018 down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you like to give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to see more from me, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys again in the next one. Bye.